You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with many strange birds as you go. So be sure when you step with care and with great tact. And remember that life's a great balancing act. Just never forget to be dexterous and deaf, and never mix up your right foot with your left. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98 3/4% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains. There's something I find very genius about Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. His ability to essentially give kids this guidebook on life's ups and downs while keeping them actively engaged in this world he illustrates is something otherworldly, especially with the message it preaches throughout the story, talking about how you'll face tribulations that only you can defeat, how you'll have many choices and many paths in life, but the key is to balance life and to always be headstrong in your goals. It's beautiful. Personally, I've read this to kids, and you can see this glow among them when they hear that one line. Kid, you'll move mountains. Even I get chills when I read it. It's this phrase of encouragement. You will do great, amazing things in your life. You just have to keep believing. You would think that someone capable of writing pretty impactful literature, children's literature even, would be understanding, considerate, just a person who fully wants to entertain and enrich kids. But if there was something about Dr. Seuss that he wasn't, it was being a good person without a doubt. Now obviously, everyone isn't perfect, right? It's a rule of thumb, something everyone knows. But then you have a guy like Seuss who is celebrated amongst children and public schools for his works. I mean, the dude even has a whole day dedicated to himself. The guy didn't even like children. He's even confessed to his wife that the unpredictability of children terrorized him, and he lived by the rule of you'll make them and I'll amuse them. Talking about his wife, Helen Palmer, she was also a children's book author and editor, and Seuss and her would have a marriage withstanding 40 years, with the marriage ending due to Helen Palmer overdosing on drugs, killing herself. Oh yeah, she killed herself because Seuss was very openly and proudly cheating on her while she was experiencing partial paralysis from Guillain-Barré syndrome and on top of that cancer. And she did indeed leave a note for Seuss to read, and it's just heartbreaking. Dear Ted, what has happened to us? I don't know. I feel myself in a spiral going down into a black hole from which there is no escape, no brightness, and loud in my ears from every side I hear failure, failure, failure. I love you so much. I am too old and enmeshed in everything you do and are, that I cannot conceive of life without you. My going will leave quite a rumor, but you can say I was overworked and overwrought. Your reputation with all your friends and fans will not be harmed. Sometimes think of the fun we had all through the years. And what do you think Seuss did after reading all of that? After 40 years of marriage, cheating on her openly, and in spite of it all, she still put him and his career first with love. Did he A, maybe publicly apologize for the turmoil and death he caused? B, maybe stop being a douchebag? Or C, marry the woman he was having an affair with, not even a year after Helen's suicide? The answer is C. He did not waste any time and got married with his mistress, Aubrey Diamond. Oh yeah, he was also really known to draw like racist cartoons towards black people and Japanese people. And not to forget, he had this really weird phase in his career where he shifted to making adult books. Problem was, he made them in the same art style he did with his children's books, so it was just really a weird book that no one wanted nor no one really bought. And I say all of this because I want to ask the question, does that change how you look at How the Grinch Stole Christmas or Cat in the Hat or any of your favorite Seuss books as a kid? Does that change how you look and appreciate them? Does that message of believing in yourself and persevering through challenges kind of feel more sour knowing who the person behind it is? Today, more than ever, we have microscopes on every artist possible. And with the increased importance of the public's opinion of you, it seems that the argument of art versus the artist will never cease. But is there a line that cannot be crossed? And when is too far too far? When does the action of the artist diminish the value of the art? When it comes to the debate of art versus the artist, I always hated the idea of having to separate the two. Art is an expression of the artist, it's an extension of them. There is no art without the artist, and artists are defined by their art. To separate the two removes context and personality to any piece of work, either it be painting, literature, music, film, or any type of medium. It is without a doubt an extension of the person or people who make it. And when it comes to the pinnacle of artists, you will find a very common theme among them is that they are pretty terrible people in private. Everything from Elvis being a raging pedophile in his touring touring days, sleeping with girls as young as 14 countless times, to Picasso being a complete sociopath when it came to handling his female muses. But does that change the mastery and impact that they had? Does that change Elvis's debut album pushing rock and roll to new heights and him defining what truly a superstar is? Does that change Picasso's status as one of the greatest painters ever to grace the earth? Does the art justify the person? I think the obvious answer is no. But how can we completely disassociate the two, especially when it comes to supporting them? I mean, in the case of Picasso and Elvis, it's easier because, well, they're dead. But let's take, for example, someone who's been all over this topic as of late, Kanye West or Ye. Now, personally, I love Kanye's music, everything from The College Dropout to Donda. I think his resume is one of the greatest we've ever seen. But at the same time, he is a complete idiot at times and says extremely hurtful things. It has felt the consequences because of it. But I mean, as much as we criticize him, we still support him by buying any of the Yeezys we like, listening and buying his music. Is it not hypocritical of us to criticize and condemn him for the things that he is without a doubt in the wrong for, just for us to support him financially? I mean, even Adidas dropped him and then realized that they kinda needed him as well after taking gigantic losses. I think something like that makes the art versus artist conversation a little more interesting. What happens when an artist's art is so important and beloved that any sort of criticism and denouncement of the artist doesn't even really do anything? Do you silence him? Do you remove Kanye's work from streaming services and make them unable to be sold? What does that accomplish? At the end of the day, we as the consumer are the reason why someone like Kanye is where he's at. We consume the art he delivered, even with him time and time again showing that he's pretty questionable. And I feel that we only do that when an artist has reached a certain point of just complete mastery and their work being beloved and cherished by so many that it's almost impossible for us to completely just cut off support. But when it comes to artists who the general public believes their art isn't as important or even good, we have no problem cutting support off and shunning them from the platforms they once had. So the question is there a certain point where you become untouchable as an artist, where nearly everything you do doesn't change the support you receive? And if there is a line, where is it? I genuinely believe that is directly influenced by how good that artist's art is. Especially nowadays, it's almost as if you can do whatever you please, but as long as your next project is something of quality, it would all just fade out of the public's mind. Another more clear example would be something like Playboi Carti, someone whose work is undeniable of quality and whose influence is seen more and more in the current music scene. But in spite of that, he has been charged with various crimes and is openly a pretty terrible dude. Everything from missing his kid's birth to him having a pedophile on his merch for some reason. But it's almost as if people revere or support him even further with every controversy or legal issue he faces. People making his newest mugshot their profile pictures or supporting him at Rolling Loud. It's just tough to get a clear-cut answer on the question because I enjoy the music that he creates. But at the same time, I would think I'd be lying if I didn't say I do feel a little wrong for supporting someone who assaulted and choked his pregnant girlfriend. It just puts it all into perspective, I believe. And with all this said, I want to make it clear that I don't think it makes you a worse person if you do enjoy the art people like that or any pretty detestable person makes. The art is the art, but I find it honestly ignorant to completely disassociate the two. It's the easy way out of an uncomfortable conversation. I just want to leave you with this. Throughout history, we as a society call out those that are celebrated who are later to be revealed as pretty terrible people. Stuff like Christopher Columbus rightfully losing his holiday in favor of Indigenous Peoples Day, to instead celebrate the people he tortured instead of celebrating the torturer. There is an obvious will to right the wrongs of those who are celebrated, but in the realm of artistry, it always seems to be more complicated, which brings me back to where we started, in the magical world of Dr. Seuss. Should a man like that, with an ugly and pretty open history, be celebrated as a person or celebrated solely because of his art? Should a Dr. Seuss Day even exist? And I think ironically enough, it's never him on the forefront of the day. It's his characters, it's his stories that take the spotlight. And take it for how you will, but it's probably the only solution we have. We still support them, so go out to their shows, recommend to others, hold their works dear to our hearts. But what else can you say? The guy made Graduation.